Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama Hare Rama. Hare Krishna. I welcome you to our weekly sessions on Bhagavad Gita as it is, and we will continue from our discussion which we left 2 weeks ago, where we left on chapter 5, Karma Sannyas Yoga, and today we would continue discussing about the effects if one tries to sincerely follow the instructions regarding how one can dovetail one's actions in the service of Lord. So verse number 18, Vidya Vinaya Sampanne Brahmane Gavihastini Suni Chaiva Svapake Cha Pandita Samadarshina. The humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and a gentle Brahmana, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog eater. So here it says, or Lord Krishna is explaining that one who is equipped with the true knowledge, which is the knowledge of oneself, or knowing oneself as the soul, knowing the presence of the super soul or supreme Lord, and the relationship between the soul and the super soul. So equipped with all these aspects of the knowledge, one can see that every other living being, let it be a learned Brahmana, or let it be the mother cow, or it be a elephant, or it be a dog, or it be a dog eater. So he sees each one of them as, and identifies them to be the soul which is within these individual bodies. He doesn't sees only the outer covering, as to he doesn't identifies the living being by its outer experience, or how the body is it, or what are the physical qualities of that body. He sees that all of the living entities are soul, and all of them are coming from the super soul, or all of them are part of Supreme Lord or Supreme Father, Lord Krishna. And with this vision he sees everyone, and that is why he can see everyone with a equal vision. Now here is a very important instruction about how we can achieve equality between the different communities and different kind of people or different societies. So here it is said that if we want to achieve this kind of equality or perspective towards other, then we cannot simply achieve that by looking at their bodies. So because from the outer perspective there would be n number of differences. There would be differences of physical attributes, there would be differences in mental capabilities, there would be differences in behavioral traits, or cultural aspects. So there would be all these differences, and outwardly we can, or artificially we can try to create a situation of equality, but it is like it's something which is artificial, because with all these differences we cannot achieve equality, or we cannot treat anyone with an equal eye. So behind this concept of equality, what we are trying to achieve is we would be we would be behaving with every living being as a, referring to this concept of equality which we are trying to achieve in our societies. And we uh, we can only achieve that if we know that every living being is a soul, and every living being is related to Supreme Lord or Supreme Father, and only then we can achieve this equality of our equality in terms of how we behave towards other and how we treat others. So this is a formula of how we can achieve that vision is provided here. Verse number 19. इहैव तैर्जिता सर्गो येषां साम्ये स्थितं मनः निर्दोषं हि समं ब्रह्म तस्माद् ब्रह्मणि ते स्थितः. Those whose minds are established in sameness and equanimity have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. They are flawless like Brahman, and thus they are already situated in Brahman. So here Lord Krishna is mentioning that those who are not moved by the different ups and downs or the happiness and distress, and they maintain that composure amidst all odds, they have already conquered the conditions of birth and death. So what that means is that they are already fit for liberation. So how they are fit for liberation? They are fit for liberation because they are neither attached to any circumstance, situation or position which they have, nor they have any hatred for what they haven't received, or what mishaps they are going through. So they are neither attached, or they are neither they have any kind of hatred toward any of these situations, and thus they are beyond the material conditionings, or whatever this material world is throwing at those elevated souls. They are not at all concerned to that, and because they don't have anything to do, or they are not at all concerned, or they are not at all attached in any way, so that's why they are fit for liberation. So this would be further continued on the next verse. न प्रहृषेत् प्रियं प्राप्य न द्विजेत् प्राप्य च प्रियं स्थिरा बुद्धिर असम्मुद्धो ब्रह्मविद् ब्रह्मणि स्थितः. A person who neither rejoices upon achieving something pleasant nor laments upon obtaining something unpleasant, who is self-intelligent, who is unbewildered, and who knows the signs of God, is already situated in transcendence. So here as it's further explained that how one can be equipoised in all situations, and that is possible when one knows the signs of God, which is that Lord is above all of this material coverings, or this material universe, and we being part and parcel of Lord Krishna are also supposed to be above all of these conditionings. We as souls are above these material conditionings, so we don't have anything to do with whatever we get to see or we get to experience, or we don't get, so we don't have anything to do with that, and that's why they are equipoised, because they are armed with this knowledge of they are armed with this transcendental knowledge about Supreme Lord and his relationship with Supreme Lord. बाह्यस्पर्शेव अशक्तात्मा विन्दति आत्मनि यत् सुखं स ब्रह्मयोगयुक्तात्मा सुखम अक्षयम अश्नुते. Such a liberated person is not attracted to material sense pleasure but is always in trance, enjoying the pleasure within. In this way, the self-realized person enjoys unlimited happiness, for he concentrates on the Supreme. So again, related to the previous verse, and again an explanation of how one is beyond the allurements of this material universe, or beyond the unhappy aspects of this which the life throws at him. It's because he is always connected with Supreme Lord through service, through his appreciation for Supreme Lord, through his awareness that he is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord, and because he is always remembering Supreme Lord Krishna through his pastimes, trying to serve him in whatever ways it is possible for him. So that's why Lord is also reciprocating with that person, with that soul, and thus he feels so much of happiness because the reciprocation from Lord is beyond the experiences of this material universe, and because the devotee receives that kind of reciprocation, so they are not attracted to any kind of material sense pleasure. Because material, when you get a higher taste, it is automatic that you won't have any more you won't feel the lower kind of pleasures enchanting. So this is how he receives the peace, the higher peace, and thus he relinquishes all the lower kinds of happinesses. यही संस्पर्श जा भोगा दुख योनयो एवते आदि अंतवंत कौंतेय नते शूरमते बुधः. An intelligent person does not take part in the source of misery which are due to contact with the material senses. O son of Kunti, such pleasures have a beginning and an end, and so the wise man does not delight in them. Now, the same concept is being explained in another way as to why one should be detached to the material sense pleasure. So the first in the previous verse it was explained as because one is attached with Supreme Lord service, or recollecting his pastimes, or always expressing that gratefulness to Supreme Lord. So that's why he is attached to the material sense pleasures or material sense gratification. Now in this verse it is being explained that because all the sources of misery on this material universe is because of its contact, or because of we perceive it through the bodily senses. So why one should be taking part in those pleasures or those pains? Because whatever pleasures or pains we are experiencing is because we are trying to experience them through our bodily senses. For example, if we want to see something, there is something good to look at, then we are experiencing through it through our eyes, or there is something good to taste, then we are tasting it through our mouth, and so on. But this experience of pleasure or this experience of pain is temporary nature. So whatever pleasure we are feeling, it would only be available for some time, because everything within this universe is temporary. So whatever whatever sense of pleasure we are getting, that is also temporary in nature, because this whole world is temporary in nature. The situation, that favorable situation which is giving you happiness, is also temporary in nature, and the senses through which you are experiencing it also temporary in nature. So ultimately everything is temporary. So why you should be so much attached to those temporary means of enjoyment or temporary means of happiness? Rather, why not we attach ourselves to the eternal means of happiness? So that's why it says that the wise man does not delight in them. So nateshu ramate buddha. So the wise man doesn't delight in them. Then the question would be that comes in people's mind, that then what is the source of happiness for the intelligent people? So it is said in Padma Puran that Ramante Yogino Anante. So here also this verse is mentioned. So Ramante Yogino Anante. So the yogis, or the people who are connected with the Supreme Lord. So the answer is given in that very word. So he is connected with the Supreme Lord. So Yogino Anante, and that is how he attains happiness. He achieves peace because he is always connected with Supreme Lord. He enjoys in the company of Supreme Lord through his service, through the recollection of his pastimes, through performance of various kind of dealings with the Supreme Lord. So this is how he is always in a blissful mood, and he is beyond the happinesses that is provided within this material world. Now another important thing which we should always take cognizance of is that within this material universe there are n number of species, let it be species of animals, there are species of insects, there are species of birds, there are species of trees, and then there is a small number of species of human beings. So in total there are 84 lakh species, and in 84 lakh species, scriptures say that the experiences which we derive by eating, by sleeping, and similar attributes of a living being can be enjoyed in all forms of life, to the extent which is perceived as a happiness for that living being. But I mean, there is a certain extent of happiness which a human being achieves by eating, and also for a animal like a horse or a cat or a dog, let's say, there is also a sense of happiness which it will achieve by eating. So that kind of happiness derived from the material pleasures are there in every form of life. So we don't need to be very much after, or we don't have to strive for it by spending our whole day and night to get that kind of pleasure, because that pleasure is available in also other species of life. But we should try to make good use of this human life by following these instructions, and by trying to adopt these instructions in our life. And when we purify ourselves, because in human form of life only we can purify ourselves by accepting these instructions. So once we purify ourselves, we would be able to make our way back to Godhead. Now the verse is also mentioned in this purport as well, and this is from Srimad Bhagavatam, where Rishabdev is instructing his sons and the one of the leading sons of Rishabdev is Maharaj Bharat, who or by whose name this land has been named as Bharatvarsha. So, so there is the instruction which Bharat Maharaj is receiving from his father, and it's this context is provided in Srimad Bhagavatam. So, so the verse is that, my dear sons, there is no reason to labor very hard for sense pleasure while in this human form of life. Such pleasures are also available to stool eaters. So such a stark comparison is given because we need to be shaken out of our complacency or out our so laid back mentality that chalo life hai chal raha hai, let us live it. But we need to understand that this human form of life is very precious, and if we spend all our life in doing just the pleasures which are easily available in other species of life, then why then what is the point? So that's why he further says that rather you should undergo penances in this life by which your existence will be purified, and as a result you will be able to enjoy unlimited transcendental bliss. So that is the that should be the goal of each and every human being, that we should try to make our lives purified, and by purifying our life, which is by following the instructions of Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, we would be able to get out of this cycle of birth and death. And if we don't do that, then we can see that there are various forms of life which we have to accept, and we won't have any say. We have to accept of a life in the form of an insect, or a life in the form of a tree or a bird, and we have to go through all the difficulties of life. Verse 23, Shaknoti iheva ya sodhum praksharira vimokshanath kama krodbhavam vegam sayukta sasukhi nara. So now in these and the following verses there would be some more guidelines on how one can be maintain the composure, or one can maintain the equanimity which we discussed in one of the previous verses, that one who is calm and equanimous, he is already in a liberated state. So some more guidance is provided on how one can reach that state. So here, for example, here it says that before giving up this present body, if one is able to tolerate the urges of material senses and check the forces of desire and anger, he is well situated and is happy in this world. So because we understand that because we have desires, that's why we after we get some desire, we have to struggle very hard for that desire, and maybe we will be able to achieve it, or maybe we have to do a lot of struggle. We have to ward off many opponents, and maybe we would be able to achieve that success or whatever we were desiring. So it's because of desire that there is so much of struggle, there is so much of strife and opposition. So it is very natural to understand that if we check the forces of desire, if we try to cut off the unnecessary needs or unnecessary wants from our life, then not only we would be happy individually, but we would be happy as a community, as a society, as a nation, and not only he would be well situated and happy within this world, but also that would pave his way for his journey towards the final destination. Because as we understood earlier, that one who is not attached, or one who is not detached, one who is not attached, or one who doesn't have any hatred towards the conditions of the material universe, then he is liberated. So that's why we need to try to check the forces of desire and the anger. So these desires and these reasons for anger would always be there, but we should try to control them. It is further said that if we there are forces of talk, there are forces of anger, forces of mind, forces of stomach, forces of genitals, and forces of tongue. If one is able to control all of these forces, then it is said that one is called a Goswami or Swami. So why Goswami or Swami? Because Go means senses and Swami means the Lord. So one who is the Lord of all these senses and all these forces which emerge within the body, then he should be called as a Goswami or Swami. युवंत सुखो अंत आराम तथांतर ज्योति एवय सयोगी ब्रह्म निर्वाणम ब्रह्म भूतो अधिगच्छति. One whose happiness is within, who is active and rejoices within, and whose aim is inward, is actually the perfect mystic. He is liberated in the Supreme and ultimately he attains the Supreme. So again, summarizing one of the previous verses, that one who is connected to Supreme Lord, he is connected to his own identity as a soul, and who is thus engaged in dealing with in serving Supreme Lord, and thus he can always remain happy, and also he would attain the shelter of Supreme Lord. लभन्ते ब्रह्म निर्वाणं ऋषय शिनकल्मषः छिन्नद्वैधा यतात्माना सर्वभूता हिते रतः. Those who are beyond the dualities that arise from doubts, whose minds are engaged within, who are always busy working for the welfare of all living beings, and who are free from all sins, achieve the liberation in the Supreme. So the souls who understand that these dualities are there because we are trying to perceive everything through the interface of the body, and this body is perishable, and that's why the realized souls are beyond the dualities, because they are not attached to the body, and thus they can get away from the dualities, and they are aware of this knowledge, and thus they don't have any doubts about who they are or what is their end goal. So they are also free from these kind of doubts, and the source of all this is the knowledge that Supreme Lord or Supreme Father is or the shelter of Supreme Father is the ultimate goal, and they need to work so that they need to work and live their lives in such a way that they can attain the abode of Supreme Lord, and thus they are purified because of their knowledge, because of their meditation of Supreme Lord. Their only focus through their activities is to serve Supreme Lord and to attain His shelter. And because of all these traits which the self-realized soul has, he is free from sins, which is mentioned here, who are free from sins, and with all these traits, they are able to serve the humanity. They are always trying to convince people, trying to educate the people about this knowledge, and which is termed here as the welfare for all living beings. Why it is called a welfare? Because there are various forms of welfare, like you do something for the body, or you do you open up a hospital, or you feed the needy people, or you do something for the body of the living being, or you do something for the mind of the living being, that is also welfare. But the supreme welfare is that if you can educate the people about one's true identity, and you can put an end to you can put a permanent end to the all miseries of one's life. So it is good to do charity, and it is good to do uh, for the upliftment of the body and the mind of living beings who are especially needy. But coupled with that, if we can also provide the knowledge of one's true identity, and how we can go back to Supreme Father, and how that would put an end to all these struggles which we are facing in this material universe, that would be the ultimate welfare, because that would be the permanent solution to all the problems. So this is how we can really help people. We can help people for a temporary duration, or by providing some food, or money, or something like that. But if we can give people this knowledge, if we can share this knowledge with our family members, yeah, with our relatives, with our friends, then we would be doing the ultimate welfare for all living beings, because every soul has is going through all the difficulties of life, and after this life, if he doesn't returns to the supreme abode, then he would again go through the various difficulties of life. But if we can educate people about Supreme Lord, educate people about our real identity, then we would be able to do something. We would be able to do something which would have a permanent impact in their lives. So that's why, with whatever knowledge we have, we should try to share this knowledge which we are receiving from Gita with all the people who are around us, and that's how we would be able to do a real welfare for the living beings. कामक्रोधा विमुक्तानां यतिनां यतचेतसाम् अभितो ब्रह्म निर्वाणं वर्तते विदितात्मनम्. So here we are it's a kind of a summary verse for the previous 6 verses. So here Lord Krishna says that those who are free from anger and all material desires, who are self-realized, self-disciplined, and constantly endeavoring for perfection, are assured for liberation in the Supreme in the very near future. So here Lord Krishna mentions that one who is trying to control all the forces of desire, one who is trying to purify his life by gaining this knowledge and trying to adopt this knowledge and its practices in his life, and trying to do it on a repetitive basis, and thus he is assured of liberation from this material universe. He is assured of not having to return to this material universe and take another form of life, and he would be able to go back to Godhead. स्पर्शान् कृत्वा बहिर्बाह्यं चक्षुषैवान्तरे भ्रुवो प्राणपानो समो कृत्वा नाशभयन्तरचारिणो यतेन्द्रियमनो बुद्धिर्मुनिर्मोक्षापरायण विगतेच्छा भय क्रोधो य सदा मुक्त एव सः. So Lord Krishna would is giving a summary of the Dhyan Yoga, which is going to explain in the next chapter to Arjuna, and here is just a gist of it. So I will quickly read through it. So shutting out all the external sense objects, keeping the eyes and vision concentrated between the two eyebrows, suspending the inward and outward breaths within the nostril, and thus controlling the mind, senses, and intelligence, the transcendentalist aiming at liberation becomes free from desire, fear, and anger. One who is always in this state is certainly liberated. So here is a short description of the Dhyana Yoga. But there is another important verse, which is the final verse of this chapter. And why it's important, we are just going to go through it. So, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam Sarvaloko Maheshwaram Suhridam Sarvabhutanam Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. So, person in full consciousness of me, knowing me to be the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices, the supreme lord of all planets and demigods, and the benefactor and well-wisher of all living entities, attains peace from pangs of material desires. So, Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. So, knowing Supreme Lord to be the beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. So this means that we should always work, we should always try to live and keep on performing our duties by surrendering the results to the Supreme Lord. So what it means to surrender the results to Supreme Lord is that we are not attached to the results, or we don't want to enjoy. We should come away from the desire for enjoying the results of our action, because when we are too much attached to the goal, then if we don't get it, then we are also distressed, and if we get it, then we get too much attached to that position, and that binds us to this material universe. But if we offer our results to Supreme Lord, or whatever we get, if we get something, then when we try to offer it to Supreme Lord, and if we don't get something, then we think that it is Lord Krishna's mercy. So in this way we are offering everything, whether we get success, whether we get failure, whether we get some possession, whether we don't get that, we are always offering that to Lord Krishna in whatever way it is possible. So in this way we are putting it to we are making practical usage of this particular section of the verse. So Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasam. So by implementing something, we know it. So by giving away the results, by offering the results of all our actions, whether it is success or failure, we are accepting the fact that Lord Krishna is the ultimate beneficiary. We are realizing that Lord Krishna is the ultimate beneficiary of all sacrifices and austerities. And then the other reason why we should offer all our results is because he is Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. That means he is the Lord of all the universes. He is the Lord of all the lords. So if someone is the possessor of something, then he is the ultimate enjoyer. So for example, if we own a house, or if we own a company, then we are the proprietor of that particular possession, then we are the biggest enjoyer of that possession. So similarly, Lord is the Maheshwar, he is the Lord of all the planets and the universes, then he should be offered everything, offered the results of everything. And he the other reason why we should offer him everything is because if everyone tries to get the results for himself or herself, then there would always be a kind of competition, a strife, a struggle to get the maximum portion of that resource, or that wealth, or that profit. So these kind of there would be constant struggle, there would be constant tussle between people, societies, nations, communities. But if we try to offer everything to the Supreme Lord, then we can get rid of many of the strifes which are happening at individual level or level of communities or societies, because they are offering everything to the Supreme Lord. They are doing everything for the Supreme Lord, and that will cut down the personal hankerings. In this way also we can achieve the kind of peace the world is looking for today. And the another aspect is because he is Suhridam Sarvabhutanam, he is the friend of all living beings. Now we all know that any relationship in this material universe, and it's based upon our collective experience, that any experience, any relationship in this material world is based on some kind of greed. In general, if there is some motive, then you will see you have friends and followers. But if you don't, if there is no motive, then those friends and followers will go away. And that is the general nature of people and relationships. But Lord Krishna is always there with you. He is there when you are at the uh, at the top of your life, or when you are, and he is there with you even when you are at the bottom crest of your life. So how he is with you? He is in the form of Paramatma in your heart. So there is soul and there is super soul. So Atma and Paramatma both are there, located very near to each other within the heart, and Paramatma is always guiding you. So that's why you see sometimes when we there is something called as a guilt conscience. So when we do something wrong, there is a conscience that I shouldn't be doing, but because of those forces of mind and forces of desires, which we were reading in one of the previous verses, we do that kind of wrongdoing sometimes. And so what the point I'm trying to explain is that Paramatma is always there and he is always guiding us, but we as the wretched children, that we don't accept his guidance. But Lord is always there. Lord is always guiding us, trying to help us, trying to bring us on the correct path. So he is a permanent friend. He is there with. If we are in the body of a human being, he would be there with us. If we are in the body of an insect, he would be there when we are in the body of a tree. So he is always there, and that is why he is our Suhridam. He is our best friend, and he is our ultimate well-wisher, because he always guides us from within. And when we know this, that Supreme Lord is always with me and he is guiding me, and when we look forward to his guidance, when we try to accept his guidance and follow his guidance, and with that guidance, when we try to offer all the results of our activities to him, that will help us to attain the peace. That will help us to get rid of the miseries which we come across in this material universe. So this is a formula of peace that we should know, try to implement in our lives, and if we implement this, then the then we can very easily get above, or even if some kind of miseries come upon us, we would be able to transcend those miseries. So with this, I hope you can ponder upon these instructions, and with that, I would close today's session. If you have any questions, please do let me know, and the WhatsApp number is also tagged on the page. Hare Krishna.